In an age where most job postings receive hundreds of applications, how do you stand out? Hiring manager here. I can't express how much better an application is when people take their time to do some research. For example, if you send an email, make sure it has a brief introduction of who you are and why are you fit to the position. For this, don't use the same copy-paste intro letter where you cleverly change the company name and suddenly it's personalized. Take your time to fully read what they are looking for and give direct connections from the responsibilities to your previous work, but make it to the point, as this shouldn't take more than a paragraph. Resumes are also huge as it's basically the only way to judge if you don't know the person. Make sure they are consistent looking and, if possible, tailored to that position. Keep them as close as possible to 1 or 2 pages, and always send them as PDF with the name your name resume PDF. Doing research on what the position really is, and what exactly they are looking for could be very tedious. However, if you spend the time it could very well pay off. As for the interview, all it comes down is your attitude. If you are relaxed and answer with confidence, I'm sure you'll land the job. I specially designed my resume in Adobe Illustrator. It's organized in such a way that it looks strikingly different from every other resume in the pile, while still making all of the important information stand out. When looking for a job, you just gotta take Aaron Burr's advice. Talk less, smile more. Same goes on the resume. Stuff format, situation, task, action, results. Way too many people list tasks instead of accomplishments. If you are looking for anything better than an entry-level job in corporate America, almost no one really cares about your specific tasks. It's assumed you can learn anything pretty fast. Even it's a field where technical skills are important. Have a separate skills section on the bottom. For example, simplified line from a resume I just helped my friend on. Led a 3-person team on $1 global, cross-functional project that led to a 30% reduction in transaction costs. Sounds much better than I usually see, which is created business requirement documents, ran meetings, updated project plans, and filled out master specs. Related, but also, don't be modest. If your company gives out awards, or you're on a bell curve and get a top ranking, or if you are promoted faster than your peers, include it. Rated top 10% of my analyst class and was picked for corporate award against 50 peers should be included. So many people don't for some reason. What if I don't have any accomplishments, as previous jobs were waitressing and herding kids about while collectively being screamed at by head office manager people organizing the trips with the company so we couldn't actually do our own jobs. Make sure you have 5 years of professional experience straight out of college like that listing for the entry level job specified. Entry level. They keep using that word. It does not mean what they think it means. On my CV, resume, I listed my experience and skills before anything else. Most people start with their contact details, but I like to let employers know what they want to know first. It got me a lot of interviews. Okay, you robbing the bank. I work in recruitment, so I can give some tips. Any concrete achievements that you have, write them down. If you're applying to a job that you suspect hundreds of people will apply to, anything that you can write down that will give your CV a bit of context will be awesome. If you're applying to be an accounts payable officer, I know that you can process invoices and match them. Everyone with a bit of experience can do that. What have you done outside of that? What unique story do you have to tell from your last significant role? Also, and this will make or break you, if you see a contact number next to a job ad, it's worth calling it, but only if you have a couple of pre-prepared questions, like legitimate things you need to know that aren't covered on the ad. You're kind of jumping the line a bit if you call in and speak to the right person, but if you're unprepared and asking useless questions, unfortunately you might blow your first impression. I am legitimately struggling with this. I have actual experience and proficiency in the positions I apply for. My former employers have given great recommendations, including letters of recommendation. I both act and dress professionally. In previous positions my skill set, hard work and professionalism has been praised, not even a humble brag, straight up bragging. So sorry about that. The problem I have is that everything is now online and resumes are sent via the internet. So I'm having trouble getting my foot in the door. My resume seems to be concise and explains my experience. I researched quite a bit when creating it. I also often write personalized cover letters. What am I doing wrong? Not knowing anybody on the inside who can get you a job. I'll just say now, this is solely a rant and has nothing to do with the question asked. If you are not interested, I advise you skip to the next comment. I just want to point out something. There are quite a few individuals on here claiming to have been interviewers HR and they are all saying different things are important on a resume. This is why IT is so hard to find a job. Sally from company A wants to see X and not Y, but Mark from company B wants to see Y and not X. Why is there no standard? You need to be professional but not too professional. You should arrive early but not too early. And don't you dare show up late. You should try to stand out but don't deviate outside these very narrow margins or we'll just toss you aside. Your resume should be different, but it should also follow one of the 3 designated resume templates that I have subconsciously deemed the most professional and if not, trash. Keep your resume so short that way we, as a hiring manager who are supposed to look for the best candidate to fill a position, can make a choice using minimal information. Always write a cover letter, whether you are instructed to or not, because some of us will appreciate it and others will use it as a way to show you can't follow instructions and toss you out. Make sure your contact details are listed and easy to read. We won't use them to contact you to inform you of any decisions we've made, but in the slight chance we hate you, the least you may hear from us. I mean, I'm not trying to steal your job. I just want to go to sleep at night not having to choose between eating lunch and being able to afford gas for the next interview that will decide to go with someone else. It's beyond exhausting. It's dehumanizing. Establishing a personal connection can't be underestimated. Otherwise you are just a piece of paper or an email on a computer screen. To go out there and network. You may be surprised, but a lot of people would be open to meeting up for a coffee. People love giving advice. Once you meet the person, there is no need for a hard sell. Most people understand that you are probably ultimately looking for a job but will appreciate that you never actually asked them for a position. In any event, as you correctly point out, it's difficult to distinguish yourself from amongst the pack, and the best way to do it is to have established a personal connection prior to sending an application. That can only be done by broadening your network. Connections are definitely how you get the good jobs. I used an iPad to present my teaching portfolio, so that's a start. I'm a public school teacher though, so you can impress anyone with technology. It's like, oh my god, you have digital literacy? Please, join US. You don't. Just keep casting a wider net. Better yet, research the company, find a person with a good position and befriend him. I'm being sarcastic of course, but after reading all this post, there's really nothing new here that hasn't been said since high school a decade and a half ago. In other words, nothing can really make you stand out any more than maybe what experience you can jot down. You can tailor your resume cover letter all you want, and should, but so is everyone else. Or be a woman applying for an IT job. That will stand out for sure. State also, I'm a mechanic, and add a winky face. Imply that you will kill for money. If it's an actual mechanic job, then they'll think you're retarded. Have your CV in an easy to read format. Contact details. Brief personal profile. Previous employment where, when, what you do. Qualifications. Any other relevant info training. Write a brief and relevant covering letter. From the applications I've had, that alone would put you above 95% of other applicants. It shows you've made an effort to actually read the job spec and gives the impression you would actually like this job, as opposed to just applying for anything and everything. Also, if you're applying for something that doesn't exactly match what you do now, for example, is a big step up down, you haven't been in work for a while, this is a career change, etc. Write in your covering letter why you're applying and think you're suitable. I've had CVs through for admin jobs and, for example, the person is currently a self-employed gardener. No explanation of why they want to change jobs. If they can use a computer, why they would be good at it. Finally, please check before uploading your CV. I don't need a manual for Dropbox or a Word doc with only your name on it. Last part is important. I applied for a job and instead of attaching my resume, apparently I accidentally attached a menu from a Chinese restaurant. I did not get that job. For the love of all that is holy, read the job posting. If I ask you for a cover letter explaining why you would like this job, don't just send through your resume. If we specifically ask for your application to be sent through and addressed to Ben, don't say dear hiring manager. If we ask for a cover letter introducing yourself and highlighting a positive customer service experience you were involved in, do so. Granted, this could be industry specific, as a major trait we're looking for is charisma and personality. Also, check everything. Double check it and check it again. The amount of cover letters resumes I get that are tailored to a different job company position is so cringe. Spelling mistakes in the company name? Come on. I've had resumes come in that were forwarded from a friend. The friend had done edits, and he sent his copy through with all of the comments from their conversation. Something along the lines of, okay, I edited it for you. I pretty much left it the same as I did for my wife. You should be good. These are all things that aren't very hard to do, but will often get you out of the running if there's a strong candidate pool. This is your first impression, and as they say, first impressions count. Everything is typed up in Comic Con. A man who isn't afraid to use Comic Con is a man who isn't afraid of anything. We're hiring right now. Australian telesales office. It's not the greatest job, but the pay can be really good. Our biggest problem hiring? People who agree to an interview and then never show up. We had 2 people lined up today, brought additional people in to cover duties so our manager could hold the interviews and subsequent training, and both the interviewees failed to show or let us know that they weren't coming in. And it happens a lot. If you can't come in, if you get another offer, any reason at all, just tell us. Just say something. A phone call, an email, anything. That way we can give that interview to someone else without it being a waste of time and resources. I just had the same experience a year ago. I was the hiring manager for a role and had 2 people no show for an interview. It made me really think about how their resume alone got them that far. I was so angry that someone would do that for a professional position. Sure wish there was a way to blackball people like that for future employers. Bar owner here. If you want to work in a bar in a tourist town, I'd suggest doing the following. Be good looking. Smile and look happy. Don't be ugly. Try and use your contacts. I'm currently batting 1000 on interviews solely because I know people that are linked to the establishment. Most of the jobs I applied for, I was qualified in. However, there was one technical position in particular that I wasn't close to being the most qualified for. I got the job because I interviewed well and knew someone in a leadership role at the office. Once you start applying for a position that has an hour hiring team, your contacts may not matter as much, but they can tip the scales. Obviously, the higher up the contact, the greater the impact. A mid-level person might win you some favor though, since they can contact them to get some perspective of who you are and what you are like. Resume is top notch in terms of design, and always converted to PDF unless they ask for another format. I have a custom font for my name and a subtle blue banner across each title for each section. I have about 20 updated versions with my new work history, but always keep the same design. People ask me who did my resume and I say I did. I noticed that when I was interviewing for jobs, I was accepted every time the interview had a technical component and rejected otherwise. First of all, be sure that you actually meet their requirements. Not all job postings receive hundreds of qualified applicants. In particular, they tend to only be limited to people in that city, which greatly limits the potential applicants. Only apply to places that are near you if you really want to get a good reply rate. Make sure you actually meet the requirements of the job. Apply via different means. Email the company, attend hiring event, or contact recruiter. Send a resume or cover letter via mail. Have a great portfolio. Meeting with a recruiter or hiring manager in person is insanely more effective than online applications. Honestly, a numbers game. Better to apply to 100 jobs than to spend forever writing cover letters for 10. I've never written a cover letter in my life. The real way is to know people, but obviously easier said than done. At least where I live, government and contract town, you really can't stand out. In this age, to work in this city, you either 1. Know someone who already works there. 2. Have an existing security clearance somehow. 3. Know someone who knows someone that works there. 4. Get lucky. The best jobs I ever got were from housing a girl who got kicked out by her BF, and her dad got me a job when she told him she was staying with me, and when my clearance somehow got processed and a month later someone called me and asked if I wanted a job. To me, the whole application thing is all part of the dog and pony show. Networking. Yeah, well, not all of us have networks, or they're not even in a field that could recommend you to the corporation. What, you want first jobs to come from my pastor? I'm sorry, but no. Honestly, I think it's up to luck unless you really do know people or had an applicable internship. No one can research everything about a company for 500 applications. Maybe the first few, sure, but as no responses come, then you'll just keep going and going. No one can write 500 individually high quality cover letters and get rejected and then keep doing it, and no one can maintain a perfect interview and all such skills for interviewing after 400 rejected interviews. Not to mention most won't even hear from you. Don't wear your bright blue shirt you feel confident in. You should always feel confident when interviewing. On email, but email. Don't use CV, but use CV. Sigh. Looking to get connections or just randomly emailing those you think might be able to help could be a way in, but beyond that it does seem entirely based on luck. Being rejected enough has made people kill themselves. Right after college, when the debt is so high, etc etc. There is number 100% way, and it's an immensely dehumanizing experience. Networking. Some of the time it's who you know, not what you know. It's very helpful to have someone recommend you for a position. OP asks, how do you stand out? And most of these replies are filled with generic rules that all the competition follows. You won't stand out. It's a great question, OP. I don't think a lot of people would share their secret sauce. It's like asking an investor in stocks what works for them. Once everyone learns the trick, the returns disappear. As someone who's been applying to jobs over the past 3 months, and finally just landed a great job after hundreds of applications that ranged from mediocre to excellent, here's what I learned. It's super competitive out there, and you have to play the game. If applying on LinkedIn, each job received 40-50 applicants on the first day. I learned to search by post date and didn't bother with jobs several days old, because you'd never get read. The fresher the job post, the better. You want the cover letter to get read. Take a lot of time to write an awesome and unique cover letter to the job and company. You'll get better at it as you go, and it will only take about 3 hours with practice. Don't forget to triple proofread. It's what worked for me, and I think it's the only way you can stand out. Besides making a portfolio you can link to of past work examples. I submitted to 100s of jobs with my resume and a generic cover letter, because it was quick and easy. Not one of them got back to me. When I took the time to get to know the company, position, what articles and people are writing about the company, and read their blog posts, I could always find something to write about. It's not easy and takes time. What this will do is refine the list of jobs you're willing to apply for to only those you really want. Because of the time investment, nobody can do it for you. I don't even think you could pay a stranger to do a good job, because nobody knows all the stories you can tell from your life, and they don't really care unless paying them on commission for a job landed, which won't happen. Accept a 20% response rate. It's that competitive out there, and there are so many reasons why you might not get a response. You're going to feel like you're wasting a lot of time and energy. You are. However, you will know the company and position very well when they call, and probably be excited to talk about it since you invested so much time getting to know them. It's tough, but it works, and that's what I've learned. When you're applying for hundreds of positions, it's hard to write a unique cover letter for each, and then I hear others are getting jobs just by using templates. Sigh. No idea what to do with the cover letter thing. I really hate them. I'm not really sure, but it's all about doing something that stands out, having a unique experience, wowing people, or just having the right qualifications and experience seem to work. I've seen a bunch of resumes where the applicant clearly wasn't trying, and they get binned immediately. So of those hundreds of applicants, maybe only 100 are worth even looking at. From there, I've seen people be special snowflakes and try and jazz up their resume when it wasn't appropriate. Those get laughed at and binned. Basically, if you aren't terrible, you'll stand a decent chance of getting considered. I found for me, my extensive volunteer work has really helped me get ahead. Naturally, I've just always wanted to volunteer for various things over the last 14 years of my life, but employers really seem to be impressed by somebody who shows passion in their extracurricular time. Also, my cover letters always follow the format of 1. Tell them why you want to work for them, as though it would benefit you and they're doing you a favor if they hire you. 2. Tell them why you're qualified. 3. Go back to opportunity and state areas where you'd like to build with their teamwork environment. I actually don't know if this format is the best one, but I seem to get callbacks fairly quickly, so I assume it's doing something. Sometimes it is just a numbers game. It took me probably 1,000 submissions over the course of 2 years to find the job I'm at. Resume got pulled from the stack. Know someone professionally who knows the person filling the position. Be a good match. Be willing to live somewhere else. Do something professionally productive if you are between jobs. Don't give up. My resume is very straightforward, easy to read and clean. I just checked and I use Calibri as my font. Here's the format. My name and information is at the top and centered on the page. My name is 20 points font. The rest of the resume is 11 points. Name, street address, city, state, phone number, email. 3 line breaks with experience titled in bold. 2 line breaks below. The rest of my resume is left side aligned, single spaced. 2 line breaks between each job. At 30 years old, I have 5 years experience in my industry and 3 jobs. 5 years is sufficient and there's no sense clogging things up with irrelevant jobs. I've been at my current job less than a year, so I will stay here at least 2 years before considering a move, so my resume shows decent longevity. My job descriptions read like this. Dates employed, company name, position title. 3 bullet points with a line break after each. The 3 points include a brief description of my major responsibilities. Only include the most important things that are relevant to the position you are applying for. Next, I include specific examples of how I exceeded performance expectations. Finally, I include promotions, awards or examples of special recognition. I've done hiring before and I'll tell you what, a clean, professional resume stands out on its own. A shocking amount of people have absolute garbage resumes with weird formatting and terrible grammar. Former restaurant manager here. For restaurant jobs. 1. Have a pulse. 2. Be fully clothed and clean. 3. Show up to the interview. 4. If you say you'll get back to me with references, actually do so. You'd be surprised at how many people can't manage all 4. I'd honestly say it's around 1/10 applicants. Actually having a quantifiable skill set that brings value to a company. Businesses don't just want warm bodies. I'm seeing tons of people graduating with degrees in English, history, sociology, policy that don't actually have any marketable skills. Having skills that the market wants is critical. Non-traditional experience and education stands out anyway. Proven results. I know how to write a cover letter and CV. I use sales and marketing copy tactics to sell myself. I've researched these things. As far as I'm concerned, my services are the product. I am a business. I'm trying to drum up leads to sell my product. I am my marketing department before the fact and my sales department during the interview. But you never tell them that. I'd like to ask a question to people who pick potential hires. Would you put the resume of a 25-year-old with a 10+ year gap and no previous experience outside volunteer work through to interview? Not sure how relevant this advice is for other professions, but in software development there are a lot of recruiters out there who make ridiculous amounts of money by referring you to a company. In my field, their share is usually a full year of the applicant's first salary. Let them do the work. When I wanted to switch companies and move to another city where I knew no one, I looked for headhunters on LinkedIn from the area and sent them a message like, I want to move to X. What vacations are you filling right now? They make a shitload of money with that, so they will run to their clients with your CV and try to get you an interview. I have never been able to land a job by submitting a resume and then wait. My resume, GPA mostly, is just not competitive enough. All I need is some sort of connection where I can get a personal interview with the employer. Physical interviews. Employers end up loving my personality and see that I am actually intelligent. They will usually overlook the GPA so long as I explain myself well enough. Worked all throughout college, had horrible illnesses that hindered my grades. My advice and what I'm currently doing for the profession I'm trying to get into is do anything that narrows yourself into a smaller applicant pool. Training, skills, certifications, etc. If you have to compete against less applicants, your chances will be better. I apply online because let's face it, you have to. Then I go in, figure out who the manager is, and ask for them 2-4 times a week. Each time someone leaves a different post-it with my name and number in their office. Do this until they turn you down or you get an interview. It's annoying as frick, but they love determination. I've gotten a lot of jobs this way. I literally was just on a selection panel for an entry-level role. We had over 350 applicants. We had anywhere between 1-6 positions to fill. It changed daily. Internal budgeting issues. Don't call asking stupid questions. The contact person is there and listed because they have to be. If you call to ask to email your resume and directly when the post literally says you must do it through the site, we'll think you're an idiot. Try to minimize your resume to 1 page, 2 at most. Keep to the last 10 years. I don't want to read that you were a receptionist in 1993. I was 4. Don't put a photo on your resume. I personally don't mind it, but a lot of recruiters HR people hate it. Go newest to oldest for experience. I hate reading that you did ABC to then work out. No, that was 3 jobs ago and you're now in a completely different field. Put proper dates. If I can't tell how long you worked somewhere, I'm going to assume it was shorter than it really was. For example, receptionist from 2007 to 2007. I'm guessing it was for a month. Make sure your contact details are right. I want to call you. I had to put several of those resumes in the can't contact pile. Make sure you actually meet the essential criteria. This is industry dependent, but I work in the government. I literally can't hire you if you don't meet the essential criteria. And if you don't meet it, you better do something close so I can get around it with HR with some talking. Don't list your hobbies and special skills. You're not a child. Typing is not a special skill. I'm sure there's more, but I can't think of any right now. Proper grammar, formatting, and well written. Since there are so many resumes given, the little mistakes stand out more than ever. If you have the skills, put a little design into it to give it some visual appeal and creativity. Actually, you can even do it in Ms. Word, even with touches of color, mixing up fonts between headers and text, and etc. But at the same time, don't overdo it. Subtle touches are much better than making it look like a MySpace page. Start with short sections with easy to read at a glance points. I suppose it depends on the job, but where it applies, I always suggest technical skills near the top. 1 to 2 word bullet points that clearly outline your selling points quickly. Call them to check up on your application once in a while. Again, don't overdo it to the point of nagginess, but sometimes they're so overwhelmed. If someone takes some initiative to check up, it might help assure they'll at least see your resume. You might already be doing this, but in a cover letter highlight that you've both done research about the company and are personally interested in them. Besides just saying how you'd fit them, mention a project or something they already do and highlight not just your fit with that, but your personal interest and desire to be involved in that. If there's room, maybe not on resume but for CV. Sometimes a little section on personal interest is a nice way to seem more like a person and less like an application. Again, this really depends on job, but I have heard positive things. It could be a subtle way for you to suggest your skills, like running could suggest discipline, or playing in a band suggests creativity and ability to work with others, or simply cause when it comes down to the last few candidates, more subjective things like how you'd fit mesh with a culture they can start to weigh in. If you don't have one already, a personal website portfolio can be a nice addition to reference on your resume. You can put much more information and pages about specific projects or whatever you have worked on in case the employer is interested in more details. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.